I'm an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. If there's alcohol in front of me, do you think I'm going to look at it and go, let me save that 1 liter for tomorrow?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna drink it. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, I'm James. Welcome to Slaying Sober, where we tell stories of addiction, recovery, and hope. Wherever you are on your sober journey, know that you do not stand alone. Kerry grew up surrounded by death. Her parents were morticians in rural South Africa, and she was exposed to things no child should ever have to see. She says she became desensitized to a lot of the heaviness of the world around her. A complex mix of dead bodies, an alcoholic father, witch doctors, and abuse, all in the shadows of apartheid. That's the kind of chaos that stays with you and resurfaces as you grow up. That chaos created deep inner turmoil for Kerry. She tried geographical change, relationships, and food to fix herself, but none of it worked. At her worst, she was drinking up to 6 litres of wine a day, a full-blown addiction. Recovery wasn't neat or linear. It involved hospital visits, withdrawal seizures, and more than one rock bottom before something finally shifted. And when she finally did get sober, life didn't magically become easy. After Kerry survived alcoholism, she was faced with domestic violence and coercive control. She felt completely alone, unsafe, and in her darkest hours didn't know where to turn. This is where her small circle of recovery warriors stood beside her and kept her fighting when she didn't think she could keep going. Today, Kerry's not just sober, she's actively healing from the traumas of her past. By choosing kindness, empathy, and service, she's building a life that's not only free from substances, but full, grounded, and deeply meaningful. This is Kerry's story. A trigger warning: on Slaying Sober, we talk honestly about drug use, suicide, and the chaos that comes along with addiction, as well as recovery and hope. Please only listen if you feel it's safe to do so. Take care of yourself. G'day, Kerry. Welcome to Slaying Sober. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
An absolute pleasure. Now, you have told me that your story is chaotic and unhinged, and I can't wait to get stuck into it. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited for this conversation. But why don't we start at the start? Whereabouts did you grow up?
So I grew up in a very small farming community in South Africa. It's called East Griqualand, and it's just under the Lesotho Mountains. So, yeah, that's where I grew up. And yeah, that will always be home for me. Always. No matter
Yeah.
what country I live in, that's home.
So whereabouts are you right now, Kerry?
Perth. So I live northern suburbs of Perth.
Very good. And what do you do over there in Perth for work?
I actually work FIFO. I'm a site manager for one of the big mining companies. So I basically look after the village and make sure that people have great food, clean beds, and all the rest that goes with it. So
Very good.
It's a challenging role, but I love it. I love it.
But you're a jet setter and a traveller.
I think, you know what, the thing, like, I've always wanted to travel, but like in my recovery, like I've realized now that that was me doing geographicals because I was always trying to find something to fill a void that I didn't know that I had to fill, you know? So if it meant moving to a bigger city in South Africa, if it meant, moving to a different country, I always had these great hopes that I would find whatever it was that I was looking for. I had no idea what I was looking for, but I was looking for something. Um,
As many of us are.
yeah, and I mean, it's now that I have been given this gift of desperation, and I mean, like, if you think about, like, to say desperation and gift in the same sentence, because it doesn't come, like, beautifully packaged with a big shiny ribbon on it or anything like that. It comes with a lot of, like, hard times and everything, but, like, I am grateful for that every single fucking day because it brought me to where I am now, where I
Yes.
can be honest, I can be open, I can talk about, like, the challenging things and, like I said, just give someone a little bit of hope, you know?
Amazing. Amazing. So when you were growing up in South Africa, tell me about your childhood and how life was like as a child.
So I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood. My parents were both morticians. Um,
Okay.
what you would call them here is the coroner. So any death that was natural, unnatural, whatever, they were responsible for that. So they dealt a lot with the police. So they didn't just deal with our hometown. They dealt with all the little, like, towns within East Griqualand. So yeah, I mean, I was exposed to a lot of stuff from a very young age that no one should be exposed to,
Yeah.
but in particular a child.
At their workplace or
Yeah, and,
yes.
like, yeah, I would see things that, like, people shouldn't see. I was the kid that was getting picked up from school in, like, a removal van, the coroner's van that takes away the bodies, like,
Yeah.
that was who was fetching me from school. So it was chaotic. I had
So you were surrounded by death from an early age.
literally, and, I always watched like, whenever I think about my parents, my biological dad and my mum, that, like, they couldn't be two different people. Like, my dad was just the biggest dickhead you could ever meet. Like, he just had, like, no care factor or anything like that for anyone. And then my mum is the complete opposite. She has just compassion and empathy for absolutely everyone, even when they don't deserve it. And I think that's one of the things that I'm really proud of that I have gotten from her, like, in that genetic makeup. Like, yeah, mum, you could have made me, like, maybe a foot shorter so I'm not a baby giraffe. I could have gotten, like, maybe your bone structure or whatever, but if it's the compassion and empathy, like, I'll take that every day of the week. And that's seen me through my life. And yeah, I've been very lucky.
It strikes me like a mortician that you're surrounded by death. You have to have a lot of compassion for what you're working on, but
To remember
also,
that
yeah,
you've got so many different cultures as well. So
yes,
it's not just like a normal, like, oh, my loved one has passed away. Like, we've got witch doctors coming in. We've
yes,
got, like, crazy stuff. And, like, but that's her in general. It's not like her putting a face on or anything like that. That's just my mum.
yeah.
That's her.
How do
She's
witch
beautiful.
doctors work?
It kind of depends on, like, different cultures. So I remember, like, there was a time there was a really bad bus accident that occurred, and you can actually still find the story. It was posted on the Washington Post and all of that. Like, it made big headlines. And it was a bus accident full of kids, and pretty much all of them died. And my mum went to go and deal with the situation because my dad was sitting in the pub and was not able to deal with it. And when they were trying to, I might have the, like, facts a little bit skewed because I was a kid at the time, but suddenly there was all this noise around the fact that these children hadn't actually died. and that they had come back almost as zombies. Every
Wow.
time that they try to have a funeral or something like that, something would happen and it would have to get delayed. And like these people were busy talking about like seeing some of the children like walking around in the townships and stuff like that, and families coming to view the bodies. So yeah, it was like a big thing. My parents had to pull us out of school because it wasn't safe for us. Because that, yeah, like such a small these people just had access to us, and it was just it was, yeah, it got dangerous, you know. So we got pulled out of school until it was all resolved and everything, you know.
Yeah. And what
It really,
about growing up as a young white girl in South Africa at that time? How was that?
this is also something that I love so much about my mum. Like, you know, when I was younger, we were coming to the end of apartheid, and my mum never ever saw color. She never did. You know, so she always stood up for like stuff like that. And I'm so grateful for that because, you know, it made me not see color. Like it made
How
me
beautiful.
see the person.
Yeah. And I think kids as well, they aren't tainted with that as well. Particularly if they're brought up like that, you don't see colour. A person is a person. Yeah. Were you fairly desensitized by the graphic details of a morgue and, just the graphic nature of the work?
Very much. I became very desensitized. For my 16th birthday, I asked my mom if I could watch an autopsy. And she was like, "Why are you broken? Like, what is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Hello? Look what I've been dealing with for 16 years, lady."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't get to
Wow.
go and watch the autopsy, but I was very interested. I still am interested in like forensic science and stuff like that.
Sounds like a very colourful upbringing till your 16th birthday, but you've alluded there about your father, and
Mhm.
he sounds like a flawed man. Tell me a little bit about his drinking and how that affected you.
I mean, I don't have a lot of memories being a child. I have flashbacks of it. And he was not a present parent at all. You know, him going and drinking was way more important than him being at home with his family and stuff like that. He basically pushed everything onto my mum, like business wise and everything, because he wasn't functioning. He wasn't a functioning alcoholic. So he would just roll in at whatever time of the day, and he would read the newspaper over and over and over again, and everything would just be palmed off onto my mum, you know? So his care factor was absolutely zero. And yeah, he just wasn't meant to be a dad, you know? And it's so crazy because, you know, we talk about how genetics definitely play a role in our addiction. And he comes from a long line of alcoholics and addicts and stuff like that. And even now, like we're coming up to 8 years of him passed away. I'd already cut him off from my life and buried him years before that. You know, I wanted nothing to do with him because it was so toxic and it was so damaging to my mental health. And yeah, he just died a very lonely, sad man. And, you know, as someone who understands addiction now because of my experience, I still struggle with the fact of being able to forgive him for who he was and the damage that he caused to me very much. I don't have any forgiveness. He doesn't deserve it. I mean, like, I'm not saying that I might not one day, like, get to the point where I forgive him, but I mean, I hadn't spoken to the man for 10 years before he died. And I remember kind of trying to make an amends with him. When I go home, I'll drive home to the farm, to where my mum and dad are and stuff like that. And I sent him a message because we're driving through the town that he was living in. And I sent him a message and I said, "Hey, It's Kerry. I'm home at the moment, and I was wondering if we could maybe take you out for lunch or dinner or whatever. And his response to that message was, "Dead children don't eat."
That's
So he
weird.
had, so he had basically confirmed to me that I was dead to him, and that's where I went, "Okay, cool, see ya."
Yeah. I'm sorry you had to face that. It's a lot. Like, it's traumatic in itself.
It is, but I mean, he did a lot of other things, you know. So when I was younger, I was sexually abused by my older brother for a significant amount of time. And I was I never felt safe enough to talk to anyone about it. And like that resulted in me acting out and really just doing whatever I could to get attention, whether it was good or bad. Like, at least I was seen.
Yes.
And I actually only told my mum about this recently because, yeah, I just didn't want it to be a burden for her. And she just said to me, she said, "Kerry, it makes sense now. It all makes sense. That's why you were acting out. That's why you were doing all these things that you were doing. It was because you were having to deal with this, you know?" And then, yeah, I remember once going into, I think this is probably the only time I walked into my little sister's bedroom. She's 6 years younger than me, and my brother was in that room, and he's 10 years older than her. And I just absolutely lost it. I just went into like a blackout. And all I remember is like screaming at him to get out of her bedroom because I was very protective of my little sister, screaming at him to get out of the bedroom. Then the next flashback I have is me in the kitchen, and I had a kitchen knife in my hand, and I was ready to absolutely take him to pieces. And by the grace of God, my dad actually happened to be home that night. And I remember him like coming up behind me and like grabbing me and just like restraining me, because I believe that I would have done like Tom to my brother, if not killed him. Because I was just like, not a fuck. Are you going to do that to my little sister, what you've been doing to me? So yeah, I was very protective over that. But then on the flip side, my dad did the exact same thing, So when I finished
Yes.
school, I wasn't too sure about what I wanted to do with my career and whatever. I kind of stayed at home on the farm for a little while, and then I got a job working in a pub that was run by two friends of his, and everybody else had left for the night, and we had all been drinking. And then my dad made the suggestion of drinking straw rum. I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
So it's basically very high concentrate of alcohol. It's 80% proof alcohol. So
Right.
you're
Yep.
going to have one or two shots of that, and you're going to be lights out kind of thing.
Yes. Yep.
Little did I know that this idea that all of us were going to be doing the shots was just me. And after two or three, I have a flashback of my dad shaking the man's hand and saying, "She's all yours, mate. Enjoy." He left, and then that night I was assaulted by his friend. So the people in my life that were meant to protect me and to look after me did the exact opposite. They exploited me, and they took advantage of me, and they did things that nobody should ever do to someone
I'm
that they
so
love.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, James, thank you. I really do appreciate that. But, like, I think I'm very lucky that I have got the therapist that I have. I've got the sponsor that I have. I have the support networks that I have, that I can recognize what I've been through, and that I can know that those experiences all brought me to where I am now. And I firmly believe that spiritually, I was meant to walk that path. I was meant to go through all the destruction. I was meant to go through the trauma. I was meant to go through absolutely everything, as well as moving into my sobriety, like all the relapses, all of those things, because not everybody's story is black and white. It's not, you know?
Yeah.
And as hard as it was, and I mean, my therapist lives a very comfortable life based off of me just alone. I can tell you that for nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, it's brought me to this point where I can talk openly and I can talk about, trauma and how it affects us as addicts, how it affected me. And, I'm able to connect with people because I lived it,
Telling
and I
your
lived it
telling
and
your
I
story,
survived it.
and telling your story as you are now, does it help you with the healing process?
Absolutely. I was actually talking to someone the other day and I just said to them, like when I am able to tell my story and I can see that it clicks in someone's head, not only is that keeping me sober, it's also giving them that little nudge, that like, okay, here's a woman who has gone through hellfire and she's come out the other side. She's successful in her career. She's got a good life. Yeah, life is life. Some days there's hard stuff, whatever. I deal with it, I manage it and whatever. But I've made it to the other side and I'm still in one piece and I'm a better version of that. And me being able to share my story, I don't always go into like a lot of detail about like the sexual abuse and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it does. It keeps me on track. And then it also just gives that little bit of hope to others that have been through something similar.
That's the word. And there's so many people in addiction that, as we know, trauma is it escalates our addiction. Some people say it causes our addiction. The jury's out and there's a lot of complexities to that. But by you telling your story about your lived experience, there are many other addicts that have had similar traumas and they can hear
Absolutely.
your story, Kerry, and they can hear the message of hope. So I commend you for sharing it and thanks for sharing it
Thank
with
you.
us.
Oh, of
So
course.
when we talk about when our addiction starts and how we fall into addiction, I feel like this is a bit of a segue into that. Tell us about when you started to use substance and how it escalated.
So for me, I mean, growing up in an alcoholic household, and acting up and stuff like that would start, like I started drinking with with my parents' consent from a very young age, from like about 10 or whatever. And then it like progressively just got to the point where like when I finished school, I was the party girl, I was the fun. I was the one that everyone wanted to be around because I was chaotic and I was like, looking back now, it was all an attention thing, it was all like validation. I want people to think I'm cool,
I feel you.
Yeah. So it was all very much, and then yeah, like I think when I moved to Australia is when it got really bad. So when I came over, I'd initially come over on a holiday visa. So I wasn't allowed to work. I wasn't allowed to do anything. My ex-husband worked oil and gas, so he would be gone for 2 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. So now I'm in this country where I know absolutely no one. I can't work. So you know what? Let me just drink
Yeah.
and let me eat, because I've been living in a small town in Vietnam where there's no McDonald's. There's a food market. I can buy a banh mi on the side of the road from pork that's been hanging out in the sun all day. That's your takeaway in Vietnam,
Yeah.
And that's all I did. Like, drank and I ate. Yeah, I ate myself to 160 kgs. Like, I put a good
Really?
effort into it.
Yeah.
I put
So you're
good effort. Like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it properly.
Yeah. You're
We're
a
not
proper
just
addict.
putting on 5 kgs. We're putting on 70,
Yeah.
80. We're going hard. We ain't playing
Yeah,
around. So, yeah, so that's when it started getting worse. And
Yes.
then when my marriage started breaking down, and, I look back on it now, and it was definitely me playing the bigger part. I had a lot of resentments towards him for choosing a career that required him to work in another town and whatever. And he had asked me so many times, like, if I would go. And I was like, I'm a luxury hotel manager. What the fuck am I going to do in Port Hedland?
Yeah.
And ironically, now that I'm in mining, two of our biggest villages are in Port Hedland,
Yeah.
you know?
Hindsight.
But yeah, like that's when my drinking got worse. And then I moved really quickly, and this is part of the father wound, like seeking that validation from men that I never got from my father. And yeah, I got into a relationship with a guy that was very abusive, very controlling and stuff like that. And I was at the point where I was literally drinking to black out on purpose because I did not want to remember anything. I didn't, you know.
Did you have a lack of support structure around you as well? Like, did you?
So it wasn't so much that I had a lack of support structure, but there was a lot of coercive control. He did not like me. Like some of my close, my friendship circle is very small like where I'm at, a lot of my close friends are in recovery. My best friend is 82 years old. He's my favorite person on earth. I love him
Yeah, so
so
good.
much. And then I've got like my other friends that kind of like knew that I had a problem and they support me, but I keep that friendship circle very tight. And he would kind of like guilt me into like not communicating with them. And, if one of my really close friends, he's young. He's just turned 27. He's just got his 4 years of sobriety chip on Sunday, and it was just so beautiful to witness and to be there, because I remember the first day that he walked into the rooms, I was there. I was the one that welcomed him, you know. And this is he's basically my baby brother,
Yeah.
and I had to have him in my phone under a completely different name because if my partner went into my phone, he would see this guy's name and the world would end. I would take my 82-year-old bestie out for lunch and he would crack it and he wouldn't talk to me for a week. Like, what's an 82-year-old going to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
it. He
it was
sounds like he was very unwell himself.
Oh yeah, and he's never going to change. He's never going to change. He's never going to acknowledge it. Never. I have become the villain in the story, and I'm okay with that.
Were you in
Yes.
sobriety when you separated with him?
Yeah, so I had probably about a year up, maybe a little bit more. But he never wanted me to get sober. He didn't. He hated the idea of me healing. He hated me going to psych appointments. He hated me going to meetings, all of that sort of stuff, because it meant that he couldn't manipulate me anymore. He couldn't control me anymore. I suddenly had boundaries and I was just like, nah, fuck it. If you don't want
Yeah.
to, if you don't want to talk to me for 2 weeks because I took an 82-year-old out for lunch, hey, that's on you. I don't care.
Yeah. So
Do
you
what
were
you got to
starting
do.
to grow. Tell us a bit
Yeah.
about, so your addiction progressed when you came to Australia, you didn't have a job. Tell us what it was like at its worst, Kerry.
The worst was it was bad. I've always prided myself on like my career. So my dad always told me that I'd never be anything. Like I would just marry a farmer, pop out 5 kids and everything. And I was like, screw you. I'm way more, like worth way more than that. So I've always like prided myself on my career, and I've been very lucky in what I've done and been able to grow and develop and all of that sort of stuff. But I was drinking easily 6 liters of wine a day.
6 liters.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
It
a
was
lot.
insane. And yeah, I remember, so he was working in East Africa at the time, and I was due to pick him up from the airport, and I had been on a massive bender, and I just stopped cold turkey because I didn't want him coming home and knowing that I had been drinking and stuff like that.
How did those benders look on a day-by-day basis? Like, if you were drinking that much wine,
Yeah.
what time did you start drinking in the day?
So at the time, I was still functioning, but progressively becoming unfunctioning. So
Yes.
it would literally be do my rotations around the bottle shop so that nobody recognized me, as we all do,
Mm-hmm.
buying the wine. And then as soon as I got home, it wasn't like, oh, let me have a little elegant sip of my wine. Nah, it was sculling it back, and then topping up the glass again and just going that first liter gone within 5 minutes. I can tell you that right now. Like, just get it into my system. Just get it into me right now. That's how it was. I then was getting pulled up on this like code of conduct shit at work.
So you
And
were still able
basically,
to get to work,
yeah, I mean, I lied a
just.
lot, like about why I couldn't come in. My poor sausage dog, Kevin, he's escaped my house so many times and run away
Yeah,
that I couldn't
I
find
bet.
him. Like, I think sometimes I think back on the lies that I told, and I'm like, how did these people even believe me? Because these lies are so fucking insane. Like,
Yeah,
if someone told me that, I'd be like, girl, you're cooked.
yeah.
Nah, this is not possible. So poor
I had a
Kevin.
mate, we used to call him 8 grannies because he came in 8 different times and to work and said that his grandmother had passed away.
Yeah, one of
And we said,
those.
hey, how many grandmothers do you have, mate?
We're
Big
collecting
family.
them. We're collecting the grannies. We've got a granny collection.
8
They're all on a
grannies.
shelf.
Yeah. So poor Kevin
Yeah, poor
got
Kev. Like,
blamed for a lot.
he got into, like, he was to blame for everything. But yeah, I mean, it was messy. And yeah, I got pulled up on like code of conduct stuff. And I remember being stood down, and my ego was like, it's not me, it's you guys. I didn't do anything wrong, it's you. And I went on a massive bender, and my partner couldn't get hold of me. And I was literally waking up, drinking, passing out, waking up, drinking, passing out just for days on end. And he
Yes.
sent his mum over because he couldn't get hold of me. And she walked in. I was passed out on the couch. And honestly, it looked like an episode of Hoarder's Alcoholic Edition. And that woman doesn't mince her words. And she just looked at me with absolute disgust. And she went, you need to sort your shit out. And she took my dogs. And yeah, that was the day, like, funnily enough, my ego saved me. It wasn't a dramatic rock bottom. I'd had many of those before, but it was finally someone seeing through the smoke and mirrors, because everything that I portrayed in my life, I looked like I was living this beautiful, magical life with this beautiful partner who did all these wonderful things for me. And now suddenly I had become exposed. And yeah, that was the catalyst for me actually stopping. 6th of July is 3 years. And
Hey,
yeah,
congratulations. So what
thank
did you do to start your recovery and to stop drinking?
I've been in the rooms of AA for a good few years before that. And I would try and get some time up, and then I would relapse. I spun so many bullshit stories in there, and I, like, every time I share my story and there's one particular person in there, I always apologize to him, because he would be like, on a Thursday night, for example. I mean, he's 47 years sober. Like, it's insane. And he would be like, I can guarantee you that if you are at this meeting tonight, you will go home sober and you probably won't drink tomorrow. And in my head, I'm going, haha, Johnny boy, that's hilarious, because guess what? Thirsty Camel is still open when we leave this meeting, and I'm going straight through
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
I was just like, I was just there for appearance. I was lying. I was collecting sobriety chips that I certainly didn't deserve. I was just saying what people wanted me to say. I didn't get that step one. I wasn't ready to admit it. I just wasn't ready to admit that I was powerless and that my life was unmanageable. And it really was. I was powerless, because once I put a drink inside me, there was no off switch whatsoever. So yeah, so it was challenging. I'd had a seizure from withdrawals, where I broke my shoulder really badly. The ambulance called, sent me to the hospital, had another seizure while I was in the waiting room. I've got a very high pain threshold, but they were trying to like manually put my arm back into my shoulder socket. And I was just like, if you touch me one more time, I will kick you in the fucking throat. Like, do not. Like, I was in so much pain. And then they
Yeah.
finally decided to do an x-ray, and literally it looked like someone had taken a big bite out of the ball of my shoulder. And they were like, oh, that's why she was in so much pain. So I had to have surgery, and
It's a
I
common
ended up,
story, you know, people that go into ER, drug or alcohol affected, and don't get taken seriously by the health system.
but like there's a couple of things around that. So like I had another seizure while I was actually on the operating table, and I could have died, but that still didn't stop me from drinking. I stopped drinking for 5 weeks. And then
Yeah.
once the pain meds had worn off, I was straight back in it, Great.
Okay.
But then I also remember like going to a GP and finally being honest about like how much I was drinking, telling him that I needed to detox with diazepam because I had had seizures due to alcohol withdrawal. And he said to me, Kerry, how much have you been drink? How much do you drink? And I was like, anywhere between 5 and 7 liters of wine a night. And he goes, okay, well, I'm not going to give you diazepam, but maybe we can moderate your drinking. And I remember looking at this man like with absolute like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I said that. I was like, bro, I'm an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. If there's alcohol in front of me, do you think I'm going to look at it and go, let me save that 1 liter for tomorrow?
Yeah.
No, I'm going
Yeah.
to drink it. I'm an
Yeah. There's
alcoholic.
no empties. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You
It
can't
was
put
just
the
wild
cork back
to
in.
me. It was just wild to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's proper serious stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
and I
how
mean,
did you, so when this situation happened with your partner's mother came into the house, was this the partner that had been abusive to you? Yeah. There's an irony there that his mum was the one that got through to you, hey?
a very close relationship with his parents as well as his daughters. For me, like when we broke up, he would lose a girlfriend and 2 sausage dogs. I lost an entire family. I lost parents. I lost children. I lost siblings. I lost aunties. I lost uncles. I know that I've been painted as a terrible person to these people, but I'm okay with that now, Like in the beginning, it did hurt, but now I'm just like, it's okay.
So getting into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous was something that started your journey to get you sober. You didn't go to rehab?
No,
No. How many
no.
meetings a week were you getting to?
I mean, in the beginning, I was trying to get to as many as I could. But in the same breath, I was fucking around. Like, I wasn't taking it seriously. It was just an appearance thing, I was just saying what people wanted me to say. I was doing the suggested things just because people wanted me to do the suggested things. I wasn't taking it seriously. And, that old little thing that we say where it's like listen to the similarities and not the differences. I certainly wasn't listening to the similarities. I was only listening to the differences. And my ego was so huge. I was like, I'm nothing like you people. Like, what am I even doing here? And yeah, like I am ashamed of that, like those few years where I was very dishonest about my sobriety and stuff like that. But yeah, it says in the promises, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but it always eventuates, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I had so many relapses, I couldn't even tell you. Like, I'm literally the relapse queen, honestly. Beginner meetings, when they do the topics, if I'm there, they'll always ask me to share on relapse because I know it so well. But yeah, like when it clicked, it clicked. It clicked.
When did it click?
When my ex's mum found me, and
Yeah. So you then surrendered to the program.
yeah, I was on my
Yeah.
knees. And I was on my knees before that, I was just like, please, whoever is listening, there's got to be something better than this because this is just killing me. It literally was killing me,
So how have your values changed since?
I've always had really good values, morals, integrity, and stuff like that. But addiction takes that away from you. It truly does. It changes who you are as a person. I would do anything to get that next drink or drug or whatever. I remember one night I had finished the 4 liters of wine that were in the fridge and I still needed more. And I went to a drive-through that was quite close to our house and they had just closed. I was literally in jeans and a jumper and like crazy hair. I went into the pub, which was dark, and then some bogan guy came up to me and he was like, oh, hey, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm here for a drink. And he was like, okay. So I was like, well, what about if you buy me like 3 bottles of wine and then you can follow me home? And, he bought me the 3 bottles of wine. I gave
Yep.
him someone else's address. I went home, drank my 3 bottles of wine, and he rocked up at some poor person's house knocking on the door going, hey, I'm looking for Kerry. We're supposed to be having wine together.
Yeah.
But that's the shit that I would do,
Yes.
Like,
yeah. Just manipulation to try and get on
oh,
in
absolutely.
some way.
100%. Like, it was just, like, I think back and I'm just like, fuck, I was gross. Like, I was
Yeah.
just such a horrible person. But you become so selfish and so narcissistic. The only thing that is important is you and you alone. And the next time you can have a drink, have a pill, have a whatever, it's like, that's the priority. So it's not so much that my morals and values and integrity has changed. They've just come back.
Yeah.
And they're
It's a
better
beautiful
now.
way of putting it. Mm.
They're better. I am a better person. When I mess up or whatever, I'm the first person to put my hand up and go, hey, I did this and I'm so sorry. And I always try and talk to people with empathy and compassion and whatever, it's that old saying, speak to people how you want to be spoken to and stuff like that. I will still sit with people in their darkness and while I'm bleeding, because that's just the person that I am, and I'm okay
Well, you've
with
got
that.
you've got that compassion that you've learnt off your mum.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also just, going through what I have in terms of traumas and stuff like that, it does make me deeply compassionate for me.
So when you're not saving homeless people, what else brings you joy in your life, Kerry?
I think for me, like I said, I live a very peaceful and simple life. Like, I don't need anything grandiose or anything like that. I'm really comfortable in my own space. I don't need to be around people all the time and doing stuff. But I mean, yeah, I love like going to shows. I'm definitely a foodie. I love spending time with my clavy boy, 82-year-old bestie,
Yeah.
like yeah, it just simple things, that does it for me. Like a weekend away down south to Margaret River, whatever, having great food and that kind of stuff. But I mean, ultimately, like I'm just so comfortable and like happy in my own skin, I don't need a lot. I'm
That's
just
really beautiful.
yeah.
There's a couple more things I want to ask you before we wind up.
Yeah, go.
One thing, I read something that you wrote, which I thought was really beautiful. It said, I loved this man. I still love this man. Despite actions which, for the record, I still don't condone, I can't just switch my feelings off like a light. That's not how love works, not real love. This is the part people don't want to sit with. Imagine abandoning someone in the worst moment of their life. I'm not that person. I chose to speak to him every day. I chose to visit him. I chose to hold space for him. I chose to carry him until he can carry himself again.
Yeah.
I thought that was really beautiful. Tell us
Thank you.
what that is about.
So I met this guy in July, and he was just everything that I'd never had in a relationship. He was soft, he was gentle, he made me feel safe. He on paper, he was the perfect man. He truly was. And for 9 months, I was led to believe that I was the only woman that was in his life. And then it suddenly imploded, and it came out that he was still married. He had 3 mistresses, including me. And yeah, it was like when that came out, I was furious. I was fuming, And I had a really close friend of mine. She had spent a week with me. She's got a toddler. He's 18 months old, and he was possessed by the devil that night. Jesus Christ. But yeah, I eventually like came and grabbed him, and I was like, babe, you go to sleep. You sleep. I will drive this kid around Perth for the next 5 hours just so that you can get some rest. And I was walking out, and at my gate, there was like a bag at the gate. And I was like I recognized it, but I didn't register because I had this demon in my arms that was fighting me. So I just put both of them in the car and whatever, and I drove around and stuff. Phoned my mum and dad in South Africa. I had a good chat with them about what was going on. And then when
Yep.
I finally got home and my godson was able to sleep a little bit longer in my bed, which gave my friend a little bit more time to also sleep, I finally opened the bag, and it was like all the stuff that I'd ever given him. And I was like, what a fucking slap in the face. Like, why? Why? Anyway, he had unblocked me by then, and he sent me a message, and he said, I flew in last night and I've dropped all your stuff off at your house. I'm so sorry for everything. And I just literally said to him, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, he alluded to the fact that he was going to commit suicide. And he kept saying to me, I'm just trying to figure out a way that it's not messy. And I was like, I know this man has access to firearms because of his job. I know that he probably has access to any other means. He lives an hour away from me. So I came out, and my friend, she's very protective over me. And she had obviously known like the whole story about all the wife still being the wife and the other mistresses and whatever. And
Yeah.
I just said to her, I was like, Hannah, do you trust me? And I was like, I'm taking your car. I'll be back in a couple of hours. And she was like, okay. And I drove up to him and phoned 000 because he's an hour away. And I was like, this is one of your people. You need to get to him now. He is going to do something. And yeah, he ended up being put into a private facility. And I messaged him and I decided to take all the stuff that he had returned and put it back and give it to him, as well as just like a couple of other things like treats that I knew that he liked and whatever. I didn't expect to see him, but they asked when I got there, they said he wants to see you. And I got there and yeah, he was a broken man. And like I I looked at it through the lens of what I had been through. I had gone through so many relapses. I had done so many things in my life whilst in addiction that there's a lot of people that are not going to accept my apologies. And that's okay because I did the damage, not them. But in my darkest hours, there were still people that saw good in me. They gave me the grace to try. And without those people, I wouldn't be having that conversation here. So if I'm saying that I care for someone, like when I care for someone, I care for them, whether it's a partner, a family member, a friend, a colleague, whatever it is, like I'm a ride or die. And I just felt like if I turned my back on him, it would make me a hypocrite. It really would. Because
And he is a person. He might be flawed, but he is a person that is capable of love and that
yeah,
you have loved. So to be there to see that through, it's courageous.
the story has changed substantially
Yeah,
since then.
yeah, I get that, but in that moment,
Yeah, he needed someone to be on his side. He needed someone to give him some comfort and to let him know that he wasn't doing this alone. I made it very clear that it was not a romantic thing. It never would be, because I will never trust a man who's got a history of doing all of this nonsense, but I will be there for you as a friend. And I stood by that. I really did. I took a week off of work. I went there every single day to see him, whether it was for 10 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it was. I made the effort. So yeah, I had to pull the pin on that because it was affecting me so badly. And I do suffer from anxiety and depression, obviously. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't. But
they go hand in hand.
yeah, about 10 days ago, I had a really bad panic attack. Like, I haven't had one of those in years, where I actually had to medicate myself. And I spoke to my sponsor, and she said to me, do you think that you carry guilt around the fact that you played a part in hurting another woman? And I thought about it and I was like, fuck. Yeah, I probably do. I was an unwilling participant, but yeah, I think I do feel guilty. And she said, why don't you reach out to her and make an amends? And I did. I reached out to her and I just apologized. And I said, I'm
Wow.
so sorry. Like, I had no idea that you were even in the picture. And
How did that go down?
she is so beautiful, and she was so gracious about it. And she was like, you have absolutely nothing to apologize for, like nothing, because you were led to believe that you were entering into a relationship with a man that was available, you know? And yeah, like, hearing her side of the story as well. And I was just like,
Yeah.
and the thing is like, and a really close friend of mine, and he said to me, Kerry, this guy walked into your life with all his mess, all his demons and everything. He knew you were an addict. He knew you were in recovery. And yet he still continued with what he did. And People like that do not deserve access to people like you, because access to you is a privilege. And I can tell you, James, right now, not for embellishments, not for dramatic effect or anything like that. If I picked up a drink today, I would give it 3 to 6 months, and you'd be putting me onto in a coffin on a
Yeah.
plane back home to my family in South Africa. And if
Yeah.
I did not have a strong support system, if I did not have a strong program, that very well could have tipped me off the side of it.
The reason why I wanted you to tell that story and the reason why I thought it's important is because of exactly what you just said. Life in recovery is not easy all the time. There's a lot of gifts of recovery and there's a lot of beautiful moments. But the reality is that you will still face challenges in life, and you've just described one that seems like an immense challenge. But you
Yeah,
didn't pick up a drink. You lent on the tools that you've learnt within your program,
yeah.
and you're here to tell the tale. How beautiful.
I just leaned on my people, and I'm so grateful for that. And you know, I wish that I could hate this man. I truly do, but I don't. I
Yeah.
don't. He is deeply damaged, and he's hiding behind manipulation and just his own self-pity, and he's not willing to do the work to fix himself.
Yeah.
And I'm not about to put any more effort into someone. Right now, he's still in a psychiatric unit, you know?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like he's got a lot of work to do and a lot of
He
work
does.
to
And you know
get
what?
well.
Like, at the end of the day, it's a lesson. Again, something I don't know why the universe put it in my path. I might not know the reason for a long time or if ever,
Yes.
but at the end of the day, I don't hate him. He's deeply flawed. He's got a lot of issues, and I hope that he gets the help that he needs and that he is able to find some peace, because that's just what everyone deserves. Everybody deserves a life that is not hard, you
It's
know?
a beautiful example of unconditional love to others is a great
Yeah.
way of living your life. Your Instagram handle, a note from an addict. What does that mean?
Guess it was kind of built around, like me just talking to myself, the Kerry and addiction. And funnily enough, I had started that page when I first walked into the rooms of AA. It wasn't called a note from an addict then, but it was
Yeah.
kind of like a way of me trying to be accountable for, my sobriety. And one of the things that I manifested for myself this year is that I really wanted to put myself out there. I really wanted to talk about my sobriety. I really wanted to talk about recovery. And just because there's so much stigma around it, and I just started posting, and I just started posting like there's nothing fluffy about the stuff that I post. Like,
No, I love it. There's
it's
no
in
no
your face.
bullshit.
It's confronting. Like, I've got very dark humor. Like, it's all in there, I
Yeah.
don't sugarcoat anything. And that's the reality of what we're doing in recovery. I'm not giving it a pretty aesthetic. I'm not putting the beige tones and the lovely music and whatever. Like, everything that's on there is to help people, to get them through, to support them if they've got questions, all of that sort of stuff. I'm in the process of putting together like a sobriety journal that's going to be like a really luxury kind of vibe to it. But again, it's very similar to my content. It's confronting. It's not like, what are your 3 things that you're grateful for today? Nah.
Yes.
I want to know, if you didn't stay sober today, I want to know why you didn't stay sober, Like, there's some big heavy hitting questions that are in there.
Yeah.
Um
I
and
love
then
that
there's
for you.
also a lot of other stuff as well, like to support and whatever. And then another one that I'm doing is like a card deck. So it's broken down into 3 sections. So the first one is like affirmations, mantras, quotes, and stuff like that. The second portion of it is like somatic exercises and vagus nerve healing. So if you're finding yourself triggered or anxious or whatever, you've got something to fall back on. And then the third part of that card deck is prayers and devotions. And whenever I share a prayer or a devotion, I always make sure that I tell people, like, this is to a God of your understanding, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, so that's what I'm working on at the moment. In
Well, you'll
between all the
have to let me know how it goes and as it progresses.
Absolutely.
I'm really grateful for your time today, Kerry. May you continue to take your mother's compassion and kindness forward, and to continue to share your story with vulnerability, because it will help many others. And I wish you all the best on your journey of healing.
Thanks,
There's a long and
James.
enriched life in front of you.
There really is, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed
Thanks,
chatting with
Kerry.
you so much.
I hope that you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. This podcast is an active service that my guests and I offer to spread a message of hope in recovery. If you could do me a favour and rate the podcast on your preferred platform, share it with a friend, or post it on your socials, it would mean the world to me. You can also reach out directly on Instagram at SlayingSoberPod. I love hearing from you. Your support keeps me inspired to bring you more stories of strength, sobriety, and hope. Have a great day.